So, guys, I want to talk about AEW Dynamite, and they're at the Hammerstein Ballroom last night doing their Christmas taping. So, I was a little disappointed with the show. Like, it did feel very repetitive, and I did still stay to the end of Collision. And at the very end of Collision, they had this huge WCW type of brawl thing to kind of fire up the crowd, really. But it was a little bad in a way because it kind of felt like maybe somebody had an idea and it just didn't really translate that well, really. Because when you have a riot or a feud, you got to make sure, you know, there's a lot of points to it. But I felt like it was just everybody just causing some melee for the sake of causing melee. Be it as it will, it works and doesn't work. But overall, there's some things that I really liked about the show. So I'm going to go over the matches. So they had Will Ospreay versus Brody King. That I was actually really surprised, and a lot of people were really surprised too, because Will Ospreay, he doesn't look like that big of a guy. He's almost like Kenny Omega in the sense where he's kind of like he's kind of like a midweight, type of wrestler, but he wrestles like a lightweight luchador type of wrestler. So with him, he was able to lift Brody King. He was able to do some finishers on Brody King and other things like that. It was really, really good. They really matched their styles very, very well. Like Brody King being the powerhouse, big obstacle, takes a bunch of hits to take him down. And Will Ospreay being like the high flyer and knowing that, when you work with a bigger guy, you have to hit him a bunch of times. He loses stamina. And then when he has a hard time recovering, then that's when you do the high flyer moves. Like Will Ospreay, you put him in a match with anybody, he knows how to do a really great job. Obviously, Ospreay wins this match. I'm very happy with this because honestly, with Will Ospreay, he needs to be in the Continental Classic. Like I've said before, there's two things that Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher is the story that they can tell with this. The other thing is that you're not going to have a Will Ospreay wrestle on a major pay-per-view until I would say Revolution. Not a lot of people are going to watch, Grand Slam, but so if you want to do two Will Ospreay matches on a pay-per-view card, no problem. If it's going to be from December all the way to March, so that's cool, really. But this is really, really good, and I really appreciate this. The next match was Darby Allin versus Ricochet, and I think with a lot of the matches, I was there for 3 days in a row, really. So there's a lot of things that I don't really remember about the match. Ricochet, they did the joke again where they throw streamers into the ring, and except with Ricochet, they throw toilet papers, and Ricochet did a great job, kind of just roasting the crowd a little bit. So again, you have to be a little careful because the problem with AEW is that they dive more into comedy. So I think with Ricochet, I felt like while he was insulting the crowd and being a jerk and all that, I did really feel that I was leaning into, I'm trying to be the life of a party type of thing, really. And I just think that may backfire on him. But, and I also think with the toilet paper thing, I'm happy they did that twice. If this is a recurring thing, then this is going to be a problem because it's going to say, okay, we can't, he can't be serious, and if especially the Hurt Business is interested in him or they're expecting him to be a little bit more motivated, this is not going to help him, get where he wants to get, really. This is going to help make him look like a clown and whatever. So they have to be a little careful that they don't make Ricochet a joke, or he doesn't say, okay, well, this is my response, so I'm gonna translate that into comedy and whatever. So I really think that you need to be careful with that. Like Kyle Fletcher has that issue. So then after that was Commander versus Claudio. Unfortunately, I'm recovering from a cold. I was in the bathroom, part of that match, really getting the last bit of the cold out of my body. So I missed a bunch of it. But what I would say is that I didn't really like the ending because Commander hits Claudio with brass knuckles. And the reason why he did that was because the night before, Claudio defeated Darby Allin with brass knuckles. So it did kind of feel, a little, I know they were telling a story here, but it was a little bad for Claudio in a way because he should honestly be very more dominant, especially if it's a smaller wrestler. And then I also understand too, you kind of had to make Commander more challenging because more of an obstacle for any wrestler because he won the ROH TV title. So you're being like someone who's holding a championship, and I actually think that's kind of why they did that as well. Really, they were trying to make Commander, more like, okay, because once you hold a belt in professional wrestling, you become harder to beat. Really, it's almost like a video game power up type of thing. Really, so I just didn't really like how Claudia lost. But I also felt it was a little bad as well, really, because what happened is that Claudio and Will Ospreay are tied, but they're saying that because recently Will Ospreay beat Claudio, so because Will Ospreay has beaten Claudio in the Continental Classic, that's the tiebreaker decision. And most people don't know that, and most people don't understand that, and they didn't really explain that. But that's kind of bullshit because what they should do is a triple threat match. If you get a tie, a three-way tie, they should not do something like, okay, we're gonna throw in a stipulation that most people won't even remember or get, really, because that looks a little confusing. But it does hurt Claudio a lot. So I kind of wonder what they're gonna do. I really think that they should have like a gauntlet or a multi-person match, and the winner of that is all the loser of the Continental Classic for this year, and those who didn't make the semifinals, and the winner of that's going to face John Moxley for the AEW Championship in the near future. You have Claudia win that, and then if you take the title off of Moxley and you put on somebody else, Claudia can take that. I think that will be the best turn of events. The next match was Toni Storm versus Taya Valkyrie. Don't really remember anything about this match. Yes, obviously they got to have a women's match, and that's that, really. And they're not even on the pay-per-view, really. So they could have had Toni Storm versus like some random person. But yeah, there's nothing special about it. Toni Storm is doing that gimmick of she has amnesia. She's going to become Timeless Toni Storm again in the future. It's just because that's really repetitive. Taya Valkyrie is a good wrestler, but John Morrison is is if you want to draw attention, you have John Morrison. Next match was Okada versus Shelton. Once again, this was like a dream match of mine because they both have really good physical styles. The problem with Okada is that he wrestles very, very slowly, and I think that's also with Shelton. That honestly, they need to move a little faster. They need to have a better tempo. If they wrestle like X Division type of wrestlers, they had a very faster tempo. I would appreciate that because Shelton's kind of like a Will Ospreay, except he's more of a powerhouse. So he's more like a fast powerhouse type of wrestler, Shelton. But I didn't really see that with him. But I really wish he kind of had more of that, just like that faster, high tempo type of thing. Really, I think that hurts him. With Okada, he wrestles way too slowly. You expect him to be a little bit more like Kenny Omega, like a little bit more like, as I said, higher tempo, more faster pace, really. So I didn't really enjoy that match. And then the main event, you had Daniel Garcia versus Kyle Fletcher. Like, this honestly was a match that I was very happy with the result. Like, I was very worried about this match, that they would have Daniel Garcia win. And he shouldn't have won because he's already the TNT champion. So you're going to have a person hold two titles. The other issue with it is that Daniel Garcia is a great wrestler. I think he can be a big star one day, but he's in the process of that. So I really think that you don't want to over push him too quick. And then the other thing too is that Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay is really the story of the Continental Classic. Now they're competing for a title. Now it's 1-1 really. So you kind of can just do that. That's the best story you can tell. You have I want to see Kyle Fletcher versus Okada, Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. Then you do Fletcher versus Ospreay. That's what they need to do. But I think you're going to do Ospreay and Ricochet, Fletcher. Fletcher versus Ospreay, Ricochet versus Okada. That's not what they're going to do, but that's what they're going to do, even though that wouldn't work out that well, really. But I really would say that, I was happy. They had really great offense. They kind of look very similar to each other. As I said about Kyle Fletcher, he kind of has that issue too of, when he wrestles, he likes to kind of instigate the crowd. And as I said, that you have to be really careful. If he's kind of mad that he's living in Will Ospreay's shadow, he needs to kind of do that a lot more. If he's trying to entertain the crowd, or people calling him Randy Orton, he's trying to play along with it. Is that helping his character be this guy who doesn't want to live in somebody's shadow and is doing it in unethical ways, or is he, you know, hamming it up with the audience really? And I think that he just loses that a lot. But then that was that really, you know. On and as I said about Collision, that I know about Rampage, nothing really special happened. I'm happy that Rampage is over. You know, they were not drawing well in the ratings. Most people don't watch Rampage, and it should only come back if it should only come back, you know, if it starts to draw really. But I think they should have a 3 hour Dynamite, start at 7, ended at you know, 10. That's what I would like really, or just have 3 hour Dynamite, feature more matches, feature more feuds, have a better structure really, or even have a 3 hour Collision type of thing. But I really think that, as I said, none of the matches on stood out to me. The only thing that happened was that they had a big brawl at the end with everybody. I actually think that they should have Top Flight versus Private Party. I'm not sure if they're going to do that, but that would be a match to have on the card. I would have a Commander do an open challenge. Maybe it's Shelton Benjamin or something like that, somebody like that, or Brian Cage. I would honestly have something like I would have Brian Cage and Lance Archer pick a fight with Private Party that could lead to something. But there's a lot of things that they could really have done to elevate the pay-per-view. I really feel like the Continental Classic, that's really what World's End is about, really, when it should be a couple of other things. And really, really, to me, should be about ending feuds and beginning feuds. But the Continental Classic, I think it takes up way too much time. Like I said with the ROH pay-per-view, they wanted to increase that ROH buy. You take maybe a few matches off of that, you put it on the ROH super card, you know, final battle card, and then in addition to that, you spend more time with like probably your tag team division and other divisions in AEW to really just, you know, advertise the show. I actually forgot you're gonna have Powerhouse Hobbs versus Takeshita. They didn't even have a segment. Both of them didn't even appear. So you know, so like as I said, the Continental Classic, I really like it. It helps AEW, but they put such an overemphasis on this. And they should just like desaturated it a little bit. They should have just said, okay, other titles matter really, but you put so much emphasis on the Continental Classic. Like quite honestly, they should have the Continental Classic be for the AEW Championship. You know, 1 year they could do it like that really. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, I just feel like they overemphasized it, but I also feel like a lot of the stuff was really repetitive. We know what a Will Ospreay match is. We know what a Ricochet match is. Commander did the underdog type of thing. Okada wrestles too slowly. Tony Storm's character is repetitive. We know how Kyle Fletcher performs. So it does feel a little like, you know, it feels a little repetitive, same old. And even like the ending was really stupid with John Moxley coming down, sitting on a chair, saying if anybody wants to pick a fight with me, anybody has a beef, come from the back, and then the first one's Commander, then everybody comes out. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you want Commander? Is he going to be wrestling for the AEW Championship in the future? You know, it's kind of like a little dumb. What if it was, you know, somebody else really? You know, like maybe you have an up-and-comer. Maybe if it was Daniel Garcia, that would have probably worked a lot better really, you know. So I just think that it wasn't the best show. It's the same old shit with AEW with this.